day, every season. I ball, I ball, I ball every day, every season. Ball, I ball, I ball, I ball every day, every season. I ball, I ball, I ball every day, every season. Ball, I ball.
Welcome back to iBall Media USA. You're listening and watching The Roster. I'm here with two wonderful gentlemen. They're going to share their experience. And one thing about The Roster, one thing about iBall Media, we just don't gloss over stories. We just don't sugarcoat stories. We get into depth. So what I want y'all to take away from this episode is the knowledge and wisdom that these two brothers are going to share with y'all today. So today I have on the show, I have Kayode Rufai and I have Mujeeb Rufai, who are at the University of Idaho right now. Fellas, tell me what sports you play and what positions.
My name is Kayode Rufai. I play defensive end at the University of Idaho, and I have 2 more seasons.
I'm Mujeeb Rufai, play football also. I'm a safety and a cornerback, and I've got 3 more years left.
So from a bloodline and a soil standpoint, tell us where y'all are from.
My mom, she was born in Oregon. My dad was born in Lagos, Nigeria. So that's just from there.
Now I know y'all had an experience where y'all had a chance to go to Lagos. Tell me about that.
We just initially went there to just meet family because we had never met like extensively our dad's side of the family. He does have some family that lives in Oregon that we grew up knowing, but we hadn't met like our grandma and a lot of our aunts and uncles. So that's initially why we went back, was to just meet family.
What was it like going over there?
When we went, I was in like the 4th grade, so it's kind of different than when you travel as an adult, you know. Your perspective, you're just viewing, like, you're seeing people and you're seeing buildings, and you notice those differences. I think like one of the most things that I remember is just like there were more guns, not more violence, but there was just more guns. It was just, you know, you go to the bank, there's guns at the bank, you know, that's just more of a security thing there. Also, the people are just like really warming culture. You know, I feel like if your car broke down on the side of the road, you'd see someone trying to help, as opposed, you know, in the U.S., it's kind of just like keep it moving, call AAA, you know. So culturally, those are some big differences.
That's what you remember from being that young?
Yeah, it was just really warming, you know, it's a good environment.
Do you remember anything? I know you're a little younger.
I remember playing a lot of soccer. Like soccer was really big over there. Like it didn't even matter. Like they never had like real like formal fields, but like it was like if you got a big patch of dirt, just pull 2 goals up and like you're good to go. So I remember playing a lot of soccer. I remember like bribery is like not frowned upon over there. Like it's something that's like taken into account with the way they have things set up. So like if you get pulled over, it's not frowned upon to pull out some money and be like, hey, look here. Okay, I don't get a ticket to let me on my way. So that was one thing that I noticed, because in America, like if you bribe a cop, like that's a real big, like, don't do that. So that was like one thing. And then like how they said, like the guns, because we went to the Capitol and there was like a big archway that you drove into. And there were 2 people on top of the archway chilling like this with just 2 RPGs, just real casual. And like, you know, we'd only seen guns on TV. So like to see real big guns in real life was kind of like, whoa. Like,
yeah,
kind of crazy.
And you discussed formal earlier. And I know y'all, there was a point in time where y'all didn't live, quote unquote, formally like we do over here. Mm-hmm. Y'all were kind of off the grid. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that. Tell us about that.
I mean, mostly like our living experience was just in a compound. So it was like the family we were staying with, it's a pretty typical setup over there. You know, the way it's set up, there's no like constant source of power. So you have your compound, which is, you know, the walls with inside, like just a larger house that more people, I would say, like, I bet up to 10 people could probably live comfortably in there. Mm-hmm. But everyone lives together. So like before we were there, I think they had some other people living there too. And I think it's not uncommon for you to be up with like the grandparents, you know, you and your wife and then the kids and then maybe some cousins outside of that. So we were
community.
Exactly. So we were staying in that compound. We had the generator just in case when the power turned off, because it wasn't like a stable source of electricity. Yeah. So that was a good, like, you know, that would kick in, but then sometimes it was just to be hot as hell, you know? Yeah. So.
Yeah. But there was also an experience over here in the States where y'all lived off the grid. You want to speak to that?
Yeah. So that was when, well, it was kind of 2 times. It was really when we came back, my mom was looking for a high school for my oldest brother to attend to. And my mom is a teacher, so she's like big on education. And for the period of time where we were like looking for a place to like settle up, we just lived with my grandma in her RV. So we were just camping pretty much for like, how long was it? Like
About 6 months.
6 months, something like that. And so, yeah, I remember it just being normal because it started in like the summertime. And so like it was a normal time. Like you saw a bunch of kids. And then like as you got closer to school, like kids stopped being around. And then like that's when my mom started to like homeschool us. And then that's kind of when I realized like, oh, that's why kids aren't around, because they're all in school. And that's like why I'm being schooled at home. But I feel like it did a pretty good job as far as.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for us, it was just, you know, you knew it wasn't like, you knew what we was living wasn't normal, but it didn't feel crazy. You know, everything gets normalized. I mean, Corona's taught that everything gets normalized over time. But like, we were living in my grandmother's RV. And she would camp host, and I'm pretty sure she took that time off just to be with us. She wasn't camp hosting at that time, but yeah, we all lived in the RV. You know, we hung out with ourselves every day. Hung out with ourselves at our meals. And, you know, as kids, it was cool for a while because it was just, you know, the forest and everything was right there. But it really just kind of like teaches you the value of just like your family, because like in any given situation, there could be a moment, or there could be a time where you have to live like that. You have to take a step back and you have to live simple again. So, you know, living that kind of like simple lifestyle is like, I think is good for anyone to experience, because it kind of just grounds you back to earth. Even if you just are reflecting on that, or, you know, for me, it's like if I ever get ahead of myself, I mean, there's times where I didn't have this. So it's like we're all ambitious, but those memories and those moments, that's like, all right, let's just be grateful for what we got before we go for it again. You know, so for me, that's, I think, the biggest value for all of it.
Yeah, tell me about some of your reflections on living off the grid.
I think it was just kind of like how they said, like we had a lot of freedom because it was kind of just us, like in the campsite. Like there was not a lot of people, and so like we had a lot of freedom as far as like she would let us go play, get a lot of energy out, and then like it wasn't like the normal, okay, you sit down, you're in school from here to there. It was like when you can focus, if I can get an hour and a half like a good solid math work out of you, I'm okay with you going and playing and then coming back and sitting down and then doing a nice solid hour and a half of like consistent focus. You know, to get that from a kid who's like 8, 9, like a lot of teachers don't get that in school because you're going for so long without a break. That's like, you kind of just might like stop paying attention. So I just remember like actually working hard with my mom, regardless the fact that like I was working with my mom and I wasn't working with a normal quote unquote teacher. So I think that was just the biggest thing, is I remember like all of us actually like sitting down around the table, like all doing our schoolwork, and we were all different levels. Like Kayode was you were 4th grade, I was 2nd grade, Remy was 8th grade at the time.
Something like that, yeah.
What's your mom's name again?
Susan.
Shout out to Susan, y'all, for putting in the 90-20 rule early on. What that means is 90 minutes of concentration and studying, 20 minutes to go rest or play. This is scientific, it's well documented. So shout out to y'all's mom.
Yep.
And they just talking about this stuff now.
Yeah, no.
You know. Y'all went to Lake Oswego High School. So you kind of in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. There's wealth, there's affluence over there. Yeah. What was that experience like?
It was cool at first. You know, you're a kid. You just, you know, I came in the 5th grade. So from 5th grade to my junior year, I was in Lake Oswego system. Definitely I struggled. For me personally, I struggled to fit in, but I didn't. Like I said, it goes back to where you came from. It goes back to like those moments you look back on. It's like, okay, when you feel out of place, you can go back to the basics. So I remember mostly Mujeeb and I were the closest we're age. So it's like the 5th grade. Oh, how was your first day? It was cool. And for him, he'll admit it was a little different because you're even younger. Mm-hmm. And I was like really grateful that I had my brother, because he helped me a lot get through those times and moving forward, because it was like, okay, I went from a situation to where this was before the RV and everything. My mom was the principal of a school. She controlled the curriculum. It was small classes. There's like 8 kids in a classroom. To now it's, you know, public school system, 30 plus kids in a classroom, just busy work. But I had great teachers. You know, I'm not talking down on any of that. So yeah, it was tough. And then there's the whole racial aspect of Lake Oswego, and anyone who lives in Oregon knows what that is. So it was an interesting like transition for sure.
Yeah, tell us about your experience, like, from a political.
Yeah.
You're part African, you biracial. What was that like going to school out there, especially when you talk about at the high school level?
So yeah, I came in third grade, and it was definitely interesting looking back, because I came before, like, when you're that young, like, race really isn't a factor. But like as I got older, I started to see it become more and more important, which to me was kind of crazy, because it was like kids I'd known for like 2-3 years, and then all of a sudden you're going into sixth grade middle school, and then now they care because you're Black. And like that was just kind of like you didn't care for the last 3 years. So that was a thing that was just kind of interesting to me, but I kind of like just took it for what it was. Is like, not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. But yeah, that was kind of like the biggest thing, was just like being able to see the evolution of like people you were friends with, and then like seeing maybe the ideals that their parents hold, or like people around them that influence them, start to take hold on them. That was definitely like the biggest part.
As you listen to your brother speak, does any other ideas or thoughts come up with the high school experience?
Oh, for the high school experience, I don't know. I think by the time I got to high school, I was just like, I remember before high school started, my mom asked me, because there'd been a lot of race issues, kids saying who it is, finding stuff in my notebook. And my mom, she's like, okay, well, there's other schools that fit the criteria for what we want, which is, like we said, just education and sports. Like those are the two. Everything else is secondary. And so she said to me, she's like, there's other schools we can do. We can go here. And of course, I'm a kid. I don't really know all the other schools. I'm not talking to coaches. I don't have a grip on the high school athletics culture at different schools. But I'm just like, I said, no, I want to stay. I want to just, because I knew it was a good education. Because I knew it was a good education. And I never really was too invested in friends comparatively to my peers. So we decided to stay. But I mean, even going forward, like, I think at that point, freshman year, I'd already been called nigga like 5 times. Mm-hmm. And I think only 3 of them got like dealt with. And then moving forward, there would be 2 more incidents that I would deal with at that high school, in that school system. So, but that's just the overall lesson, you know what I mean? I mean, we can't really get too hung up on the happenstance of everything, that it happened. No, it's you take it with the lesson, because there's always going to be things that are not what you want, but you can either focus on those things or the reasons that brought you there. And that's why we ended up leaving my senior year, because my senior year I transferred while it was at the end of your freshman year, because it was like, give it 3, give it my best effort. Matt Leland, he opened us up to a lot of different things, changed our way of viewing the world. So yeah.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Y'all got some world views early on. Sounds like you got it. When I hear about y'all's experience from going to visit Lagos, Nigeria, living off the grid here, those are some tremendous learning lessons. If you're really listening to this, and if you haven't had the chance to do anything like that, you're actually listening to hardship right now, but you're also listening to wisdom, and knowledge on how to overcome certain things and keep going, and not let how a person or individuals act get you off track. So
I would say that it's been a privilege, because I feel like anyone could be in our situation and not have parents who dealt with it the way they did, or scraped it together to make it work the way they did. And that's happening right now as we're speaking. Yeah. So like, I'm not up here, we're not talking about like a bad story. No, it was a hard story, but it's a good story, because we're taking care of, we're navigating through it, I
definitely feel like Mom did a good job, because like we didn't have a lot of money, and living in a community where there is a lot of money can be difficult, because like, there's ways to have fun without spending money. And then there's ways to have fun with spending money. And when you grow up in a rich community, well, all they know how to do is really have fun by spending money. And like when you can't do that, it can be very difficult. But I feel like one of the best things that Lake Oswego ever gave us was just like a perspective of like how some people can live. Mm-hmm. Because you have a lot of people who have new money that's been required within 2 generations. And you see, okay, well, they have a nice house, they have a nice car, they live really comfortable. Well, Timmy, let me see what your dad does. What do you do? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Okay,
Yeah.
a lawyer. Like, now this is a potential job to where I could see maybe if I'm interested in, this is a way I want to live, and then that's potentially something I can do to live that way.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, I asked pretty much all my friends' parents, if they lived comfortably, what do you do? Do you like it? Tell me more about it. And I just started to, like, take in more information of, like, this is how the people in this rich community operate, and, like, what can I do to have a lifestyle similar to that by still holding on to my core values.
Because I feel like that's the goal. I mean, the goal might not be to live in Lake Oswego, but I think the goal for many people should be to be able to live there. Now, that's just my goal. That's just me speaking that.
You
So
say be able to live somewhere comfortable.
it doesn't mean you have to go live in Lake Oswego. Maybe you live, over on the other side,
Yes.
but you could. You're in your own, So they're leveraging the situation you're in is really the takeaway. That's why I'm a finance major now at Idaho, because when we transferred there, I was just trying to get a feel for what the deal was. I was a marketing major. I felt good about it, but when I met the finance people and they was talking, I felt really bad about that. Leveraging the situation you're in is all you can really do to benefit yourself. Because if you think forward about what's going to happen, or about like what you're doing next year, or like all that stuff is no guarantees, man,
He's a D lineman, but he's fast. He jumped the gun. Tell us what you're studying.
I'm finance, human management, resources, and entrepreneurship. So it's a double major right now. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to master in yet.
Now, I hear y'all have been taking a class where you're learning the fundamentals or the basics of investing. Speak to that for me.
It's just really engaging with the markets, through equities, options, and some futures. Just a really good survey of finance in terms of investing. And the program starts out from, as a freshman, work way up to these classes. Then you get an account, and then they let you, engage with the markets in a regulated, controlled fashion. So it's a really great place to be for finance. It's the destination for risk management in the West. That's what we're calling it.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we close out, I want to ask these brothers one more question. So with everything that you've been through, living off the grid, going to visit Africa, going through race, politics, economics of living in Lake Oswego or an affluent community, overcoming hardship, what advice would you give to the young athletes or athletes out there? Let's start with you, Mujeeb.
I'd probably say, like, just because something doesn't work out, don't change who you are. Like, if you're a good person, you work hard, you put all the hard work in, like, you go above and beyond to do all the extra stuff, like, it's not always going to work out for you. There have been a lot of times for me where it didn't work out, but, like, I didn't let that change who I was. I didn't become spiteful or anything like that. Like, just keep working hard and keep being the good person. It's always right to do the right thing. And if you keep that way, eventually someone's going to notice and good things are going to come your way.
I would just say, like I said earlier, leverage the situation you're in. Identify what you can work with around you and get to working, Don't stress yourself up too much about things you can't control, because I feel like that's one of the greatest enemies as athletes we face. When you have whatever your home situation is looking like, your academics, your sports, and then whatever that X factor is, it can be real crazy when you choose the lifestyle of an athlete or even that of an entrepreneur, because there's no set track. You have to build your own way. Don't let that intimidate you. Again, just find what you can work with and deal with it. Do with it every day. Just try to get better every day. That's all you can do.
Hey, that's the word of the day. You got to make your own way. Ladies and gentlemen, I have Kayode on. I have Mujeeb on. Appreciate y'all taking the time to drop into the studio. Appreciate you taking the time. You heard it here first with iBall Media. You've been listening to and watching The Roster. Peace and blessings.